They were a cultural phenomenon that took the world by storm. Out of all the cartoons and TV shows I watched as a kid, no other show had a bigger impact on me than the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is an adaptation of the long-running television series in Japan known as the Super Sentai series. It has been running since the late 70s and up until recently it showed no signs of stopping. In every season of Super Sentai, a team of individuals are selected and given the ability to transform into a power suit that gives its user special abilities, weapons and strength to fight its enemies. These suits are always colour coded and every season of each show always followed a specific theme. A ranger also gains the ability to call upon a giant mechanical robot that can connect to everyone else's robot to make one big powerful robot, all to fight evil enemies that usually ended up growing in size. Like I mentioned, each Ranger series had a different team. For example, in Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger Dino Squadron, the team of the Rangers was dinosaurs. And it's this particular series that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was based off. Because I grew up watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, watching Zyuranger felt like a weird fever dream. Like I'd stepped into some sort of alternate reality where everything was the same but fascinatingly different. In Zyuranger Dino Squadron, the Zyurangers are legendary warriors who have laid dormant for centuries, but are then summoned back to life by Sage Barza to fight against the evil witch Bedora and her forces, who up until the first episode have also laid dormant, but on a faraway planet called Nemesis. The Zyurangers are an interesting bunch of characters. They aren't the teenagers with attitude that we're familiar with. They are young, hardened warriors with a specific set of skills. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers world differed slightly from Zyurangers. In Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 5 teenagers with attitude were recruited by an alien wizard from the planet Altor known as Zordon and his companion robot Alpha 5 to become the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Zordon, who is displayed in the giant test tube looking thing in the command center, is a hologram projecting his true self from wherever he's meant to be and serves as the Rangers' mentor. The command center is the Power Rangers' secret base, and the only way inside is by transport via the Rangers' wrist communicator and the possession of a power coin and morpher. The base itself is made up of a bunch of retro looking computers, Zordon's tube and the viewing globe which allows the team to see what's happening in Angel Grove in real time. The producers of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers took all the key scenes from Zyurangers like the fight scenes and the mech battles and put them together with footage that was shot in America with American actors and made a completely new story all its own. They would do this using whatever footage they could get from Japan. Now everything from Zyuranger's opening theme to its storyline and depth of its characters in my personal opinion is great and I really enjoyed watching it. But if I'm honest, the show did feel like it was stuck in a time warp. Zyurangers was made in the early 90s, but for whatever reason it looked like it was made in the 70s. And while the show had its own unique charm and personality, I think it was far too cute and culturally different to be taken seriously or be considered cool by the West. I mean, just look at its intro, it almost borders on parody. Well, everything about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers screamed cool and new. The remake gave the show a much needed facelift and story that would make more sense to a Western audience. And with that said, Witch Bedora became Rita Repulsa, Gryphosaur became Goldar, Totpat became Babu, the Guardian Beasts became the Megazords, the Dino Buckler became the Morpher, and so on. Like I mentioned earlier, writers pretty much had to make up scripts for Power Rangers based on whatever footage they had that week, so it was a challenge, but it never failed to work. Replacing the Zyurangers, our new cast of Rangers were Jason, Kimberly, Billy, Trini, Zack, and then later on Tommy. The lineup of the Rangers would change in seasons 2 and 3, but for me this didn't make a difference. Every Mighty Morphin Ranger was just as important to me as the next. They all had their strengths. Red Ranger Jason Scott Lee, played by Austin St. John, is a tough martial arts teacher who loves working out and also loves friendly competition. He always keeps a brave face under tough situations and never backs down from a fight. This made him the most logical choice to lead the Rangers. He would eventually leave the series and return in Zeo as the Gold Ranger before leaving again. Since then, he's made a number of cameo appearances in the franchise, coming back in Power Rangers A Turbo Movie, Wild Force in the episode Forever Red, and Beast Morphers in the episode Grid Connection. Replacing Jason was Rocky DeSantos. Rocky, played by Steve Cardenas, is a tough, courageous and headstrong young man, but he's not a natural leader like Jason. But nevertheless, he would earn a spot in the franchise, eventually going on to become the Blue Zeo Power Ranger. Rocky would eventually leave the franchise during the Turbo era. Since leaving the show way back then, he has dipped in and out of the franchise, cameoing in a number of episodes in the franchise. Most notably in Super Ninja Steel, Dimensions in Danger, and more recently in Mighty Morphins Once and Always. Black Ranger Zack, played by Walter Jones, is an athletic young man who is interested in a wide range of sports. He is also a skilled dancer who incorporates that style and attitude into his fighting technique, often taunting his enemies into submission. His quick wit often comes in handy in sticky situations. He would eventually be replaced by Adam, but return in Once and Always. Adam Park, played by Johnny Young Bosch, is a solid underdog fighter. He's intelligent, he's quick, and although he wasn't a leader, he possessed many of the capabilities of becoming one. Adam would eventually go on to become the Green Zeo and then later on Green Turbo Ranger. After that, he would make a number of cameo appearances in future episodes of the franchise, appearing in Power Rangers in Space, Operation Overdrive, and a small cameo in the more recent Netflix show Once and Always as an SPA officer, Space Patrol Alpha. Pink Ranger Kimberly, played by Amy Jo Johnson, is an expert in gymnastics. She's got a typical Valley Girl attitude, but she's also tough, kind and caring, and she's also a fierce fighter. She would eventually leave the show but return in Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. She would also appear in the 2017 reboot movie Power Rangers alongside Jason David Frank. I think it's fair to say that she was the first crush of a lot of kids growing up in the 90s, as was Yellow Ranger Trini, played by Toy Trang. But if you ever got a horn for Trini when she was in the yellow suit, congratulations. You could be gay because that's really a guy in the yellow suit. Trini is the fighter with the lightning fast hands and a kind soul. She's uniquely dedicated to her martial arts and often remains cool, calm and collected even in the most deadly of situations. Replacing Trini and Kimberly was Aisha and Kat. Aisha Campbell, played by Karen Ashley, was like Trini in a lot of ways, but she also had attitude and was incredibly tough, smart and resourceful. After Mighty Morphin, she would return as an SPA officer in Once and Always. Replacing Kimberly in Season 3, Catherine Hillard, played by Catherine Sutherland, moved to Angel Grove from Australia as just another regular student. She fell victim to Rita Repulsa's evil spell and was used as a pawn against the Rangers, but eventually she would break free from the spell and befriended Kimberly. When Kimberly decided to leave to pursue a career in gymnastics, she ended up picking Kat as her successor. Kat would go on to become the Pink Zeo and then later Pink Turbo Ranger. She's the only female Ranger in the series to have been 3 different Ranger types. She would appear again in Ninja Steel in the same episode as Rocky. She would also reprise her role as a Mighty Morphin Ranger in Once and Always. Blue Ranger Billy Cranston, played by David Yost, is the brain of the team. The rest of the team often turn to Billy when something needs to be fixed, hacked, invented or repaired. Throughout the series we see his character grow from being a stereotypical nerd to a strong, intelligent warrior and a vital member of the Ranger team. For 3 seasons in Mighty Morphin he battled it out with the rest of the Rangers, and in Zeo he took on a more advisory role before leaving the show. But he would eventually return to the franchise in a number of episodes, most notably in Cosmic Fury and Once and Always. For its time, Mighty Morphin would have been considered an inclusive show with a diverse set of characters. But you know, making the Yellow Ranger a Chinese lady and the Black Ranger an African American, well, you know, I just couldn't see that happening today. On the 28th of August in 1993, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was released and blew all of its competitors out of the water. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ended up being a cultural phenomenon that captured the hearts and minds of every kid aged 6 and up across the Western world, and I was one of them. There was a range of toys, costumes, video games, a movie and a tour and arena show ready to drain the wallets and bank accounts of all the mummies and daddies who had to put up with the craze. Suddenly, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was everywhere. Its popularity had gone through the roof, seemingly overnight, and it showed no signs of stopping. I think the reason why Power Rangers resonated with my generation was because of the difference in the type of show that it was. The Power Rangers wasn't a cartoon, it was a live action show. The role of the Power Rangers was played by real people. They were brave, teenagers with attitude that fought monsters to keep a city called Angel Grove safe. And they knew all sorts of martial arts and cool abilities. They punched, kicked and backflipped their way to victory in every episode, and we all wanted to do the moves, morph into the suits and become just like them. In every episode of Power Rangers they made the world a safer place, a better place. And in a strange way, they made it seem like it could be possible to do that in the real world also. Across the show's 3 seasons, there was one Ranger who stood out from the rest for me, and that was the Green Ranger, Mr. Tommy Oliver, played by the late Jason David Frank. A villain turned good guy, Tommy Oliver first appears in the episode Green with Evil. In Green with Evil, he is put under a spell by the evil Rita Repulsa and given the Green Ranger's powers in order to defeat the team of good Rangers. But he would eventually be freed from Rita's spell and end up becoming the 6th member of the team and eventually the team's leader. Similar to Jason, Tommy was a tough, competitive and skilled fighter who also taught martial arts. But Tommy was a new character that you could really get behind. He had the look and charisma of a real fighter. I guess that's because in real life that's who he was. The way he carried himself made you believe in him. He had a unique style that made him stand out. Maybe it was the long hair or something, but he just looked cooler than the rest of the Rangers. And just after a few short episodes, he had earned a spot in the show. Out of all the Rangers across the entire franchise, I feel like Tommy Oliver is the Ranger that's had the best storyline and the most depth to his character. He's also the Ranger with the most appearances across the entire franchise, appearing in multiple versions of the show in both official and unofficial episodes. There's even a what if storyline where he embraces his evil side, becoming the evil Lord Draken. After Mighty Morphin was done, he remained in the franchise, appearing in Power Rangers Zeo, Turbo, Wild Force, Dino Thunder, Mega Force and Ninja Steel. He has also done unofficial episodes with the company Bad in the Sun. Before he tragically ended his life, he had been working on his film Legend of the White Dragon. Jason David Frank, outside of Power Rangers, was a grandfather, an advocate for mental health, an MMA fighter, a teacher, a poet, a Christian, and just a really great human being and role model. But how could any of us know that he was suffering with his mental health? This was a tragedy on an unbelievable scale. This impacted so many people. The Green Ranger suit was superior, or at least we all believed it was superior, and unique from the other Rangers. While the other Ranger suits teams were all about dinosaurs, Tommy's suit was based on dragons. He was armed with a power shield and a dragon dagger, and when he was evil, he possessed a sword known as the Sword of Evil, but it gets destroyed. The dragon dagger was cool. It was a knife, but it was also a flute which could control his Megazord, the mighty Dragon Zord. The Dragon Zord was a beast of a machine. It could fire rockets from its fingers, it had a drill in the end of its tail, it could also connect to the Megazord to form the Ultra Zord. There were a few different transformations actually. The primary part of the Ranger's Megazord is the Red Ranger's Dinozord, and all the other Zords connect to it. Let's just call this the default setting. With the default setting you get tank mode and standing mode, and the ability to summon a sword from the sky, the Power Sword. But if the Red Ranger's Dinozord is left out and Tommy's Dragon Zord is used as the main component for the rest of the Zords to connect to, the Megazord takes on a different look and instead is armed with a spear made from the remaining parts of the Dragon Zord. This is known as Dragon Zord Battle Mode. But if the Dragon Zord wants to connect to the Megazord in its default mode, it looks like this. And if you include the additional Transport Zord Titanus, this forms the hilariously armed Ultra Zord. The Ultra Zord is complete overkill. You knew the Rangers meant business when they pulled this one out of the hat. Every Ranger's standalone Zord had weapons and abilities to fight on their own, but it's rarely seen in the show. They nearly always transformed into the Megazord. All of these different Rangers and Megazord transformations meant a never-ending catalogue of toys. It was genius, and I wanted everything, but so did all the other kids on my road. Toys flew off the shelves in spectacular fashion. It was Megazords for Christmas and Morphers for your birthday. In the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Zords are something the Rangers call upon when needed, but in Zoo Ranger, all of the Zords are sentient beings that the Rangers can communicate and have conversations with. Same deal with their special weapons. In Mighty Morphin, each Ranger has a special weapon. Red Ranger Jason has the Power Sword, Yellow Ranger Trini has the Power Daggers, Black Ranger Zack has the Power Axe, Kimberly has the Power Bow, and Blue Ranger Billy has the Power Lance. The Rangers could combine all of these weapons together to form the mighty Power Blaster. In Mighty Morphin, all of the Rangers have these weapons by default, but in Zoo Ranger, the Rangers have to go through a test and earn each weapon's respect to fully harness their powers. The weapons also morph from a regular looking primitive weapon to what you see in Mighty Morphin. The first 5 Rangers were also armed with a Blade Blaster. The Blade Blaster was a laser blaster that could be transformed into a baton with a knife in the end of it. As standard, a Ranger has a wrist communicator which allows the Rangers to keep in contact with each other and with Zordon in the command center. And of course, all the Rangers are armed with their Morpher with their respective power coins inside. Now you're probably wondering, why was all this needed? Well, in Season 1, after being freed from her prison inside a pot, Rita Repulsa had set her sights on conquering Earth. Rita, along with the help of her minions, had the ability to make monsters to terrorize the city of Angel Grove. She was also able to generate an endless amount of foot soldiers made of clay, known as the Putties. In Season 2, she was joined by her would-be husband, Mr. Lord Zed, who increased the power of the Putties and the evil monsters they were able to generate. In Season 3, Rita's father, Master Voile, had joined the cast. Altogether, these forces of evil posed a formidable challenge to the Rangers, and for 3 seasons they battled it out against a never-ending onslaught of randomly generated enemies. We all loved the Green Ranger and the Dragon Zord, but the Green Ranger's powers would eventually come to an end in the episode Green No More. In Green No More, the evil Lord Zed uses the green crystal to drain Tommy's powers and eventually make the Green Ranger a thing of the past. But the truth is that the writers of the show had run out of usable footage of the Green Ranger, because in Zoolanger, spoiler alert, the Green Ranger actually dies. Zoolanger the series had also ended, and the next Super Sentai series known as Rangers had already begun. So the solution to this was to use the White Ranger footage from Rangers and include it in Mighty Morphin and make Tommy the new White Power Ranger. Same deal for the Zords. In Season 2, the Dinozords would now transform into the Zords from Rangers. Here's a fun fact: in Rangers, the White Kiba Ranger is a child. This is a concept that would later be used in Power Rangers Turbo. Rangers. Now that's another trip. Again, watching that show, it was like stepping into an alternate reality where everything was the same but different. But there was something about Rangers that just made me fall in love with the show. In my personal opinion, it's far superior to Zoolanger in a lot of ways. For one thing, it had a kick-ass opening theme that showcased all of the Zords. The suits, Zords and weaponry were great, and even though it was a kids show, some of its episodes were pretty dark and gritty. A lot of effort went into the story. There was even a bit of blood and guts thrown in. I also loved the way the Rangers called upon and got into the Zords. These Zords could even fly through the air. In the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers you don't really see that. The Rangers themselves had so many additional weapons as well. The Ranger team and their mentor were all complex and interesting characters, all with their own unique storylines. I really enjoyed this one. Season 2 of Mighty Morphin would see Tommy become the White Power Ranger. The White Ranger had a sword named Saba, the pommel of which could talk. Tommy was also now in command of the White Tiger Zord. And as for the rest of the Rangers, they could now transform their Dinozords into the Thunder Zords. And when those combined, they turned into the Thunder Megazord. When they eventually ran out of usable footage from Rangers, they took footage from Ninja Sentai Kaku Rangers for the Shogun and Ninja Zords, and the Ranger scenes for the finale episodes of Season 3 known as Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. I can only imagine how much of a headache this was becoming for the people putting the show together, but they managed to pull this off for 3 seasons. By Season 3, the Rangers had gained new powers and additional upgrades. The Rangers could now call upon the Ninja Ranger powers, which gave them a ninja suit. It's not quite as strong as the Ranger suits, but strong enough to battle it out with Season 3's lower level enemies, the Tengas. When they were in the Mighty Morphin suits, the Rangers could now make their suits metallic, vastly improving the Rangers' defense capabilities. The Rangers were also given motorbikes called the Shark Cycles. They were created from the prehistoric fin of a shark apparently, and not fiberglass. The Zoo Rangers also had bikes, but that footage was never used in Mighty Morphin for some reason. Action, adventure, combat and mech battles. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had it all, but the key component that really tied everything together was its soundtrack. Ron Wasserman, also known as Aaron Waters, is the creator of the Mighty Morphin's kick-ass heavy metal theme. The entire soundtrack is amazing and caters perfectly to the tone of every episode. The success of the TV show was one thing, but the movie and the arena tour, now that took the hysteria of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to the next level. Released on the 30th of June 1995, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie would turn out to be an unbelievable, action-packed thrill ride that kept me on the edge of my seat. The excitement leading up to this release was palpable. In this movie, the Rangers faced their toughest villain to date, a vile purple creature known as Ivan Ooze. The movie opens with a Star Wars-like intro giving us a brief backstory on Zordon, the Rangers and the history of Ivan Ooze. Ivan Ooze once ruled the Earth with a reign of unparalleled terror till Zordon, Dulcia and the Order of the Meridian sealed him away in a hyperlock chamber. 6,000 years later he gets unearthed by Lord Zed and is now out for revenge and world domination. Unlike the predictable nature of Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed, Ivan Ooze is sneaky, powerful and cunning. He's also kind of funny. He's like a cross between Christopher Lloyd and a B-movie actor. He has a rare talent for making unfunny jokes hilarious and doing spontaneous things that in the moment should be terrifying, but just ends up making you laugh uncontrollably. But don't get him wrong, he's a real bad guy and he's out to do damage. Our first shot of the Rangers in this movie is like a 20-minute long Pepsi Max ad on crack. It's another typical day in Angel Grove skydiving and rollerblading for these late 20-something looking teenagers with attitude. Yeah, no big deal. Just another day at the office. Yeah man, far out. Cowabunga. Definitely cheesy by today's standards, but rollerblading was the thing back then. Everyone on my road had a pair of Bowers too. We all fell all over the place trying to do tricks, latching onto the back of cars and jumping off stairwells. It was the style at the time, and the Rangers leaned in hard towards all of that kind of stuff. We all did. It was the era of bowl-cut hairdos, 16-bit gaming, extreme sports and action-packed TV. No phones and no internet as we know it today. There really was nothing better to do. We see the Rangers having a blast, skating around the place, having fun. But they're then contacted by Zordon to investigate a source of overwhelming evil energy at the construction site where Ivan was freed. And this is where we see the Rangers get into their first fight of the movie. The Rangers confront Ivan at the site, but he's so unfazed by the Rangers that he decides not to deal with them. Instead, he spits out a bunch of clones of himself, the Ooze clones, who sort of look like a bunch of midgets dressed in alien costumes wearing Voorhees masks. And then he disappears, leaving the Rangers no choice but to fight. Pretty soon the Rangers find themselves being overwhelmed and have no choice but to morph. For the movie, the Ranger suits and the morphers got a much needed upgrade. Unlike in the TV series, all of the suits look like actual armour. They also have new weapons and new abilities. Billy now has the Stega Singers, which is like some sort of grappling hook taser thing. Kimberly has the Pterodactyl Thunder Whip. Aisha has flashlights on her helmet and Rocky's got night vision. The Rangers had a difficult time just about managing to take care of business. While all of this is going on, Ivan seized this opportunity to break into the command centre. The command centre for the movie looked amazing. It looked far better than the set used for the TV show. But it wouldn't be lasting too long as Ivan breaks in and proceeds to wreck the entire shop. He smashes up everything, disabling Alpha and taking his revenge on Zordon. Unlike in the TV series where all the Rangers' powers come from the Morphin Grid, in the movie they seem to come from the command centre itself. After Ivan's attack, the Rangers lose their ability to morph. With their command centre in ruins and their leader on death's door, they are left no other alternative but to travel to a far distant planet of Betos, or Phaetos. Which one is it?
It is on the distant planet of Phaedos.
Phaedos.
To retrieve what's known as the Great Power. For the first time, we see the Rangers completely out of their depth on a strange new world, alone and scared, without their ability to morph, having to fight for their very lives. But if the Rangers want to stop Ivan and save Zordon, they must navigate this dangerous new land and complete their mission. Luckily, an ally of Zordon named Dulcia shows up at the right time to aid the Rangers in their quest. She grants them the Ninja Ranger abilities and points them in the right direction to obtain the Great Power, which is hidden deep inside a monolith in a nearby forest. The overall tone of this movie is a mix of serious intent, broken up by moments of cheesy one-liners and unintentional satire. At the core of this movie is a rich and in-depth storyline with some incredibly beautiful scenes and powerful dialogue, but then it throws you with scenes like Tommy fighting the Oozemen to some guy singing "Action boy, no action girl, yeah."
My nightmare. Action boy now. Action girl now. It's a
Or Billy breaking the fourth wall to talk to the audience.
Talk about a splitting headache.
Or everyone backflipping all the time for no reason whatsoever. But in a strange way, all of the cringe balances out the serious nature of the story. I feel like the movie reaches a satisfying ending for both adult and child alike, and if you haven't seen it before, go and give it a watch. There was a follow-up to the Mighty Morphin movie at the end of the Zeo era called Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. It's not bad, but it doesn't have the magic of the first. There was also a reboot movie back in 2017, which is just terrible, don't even bother. More recently, there was a movie made for Netflix called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, which in theory sounded like it was going to be amazing. It certainly had the potential to be amazing, but for whatever reason, it fell short of whatever I was expecting it to be. I don't know, everything about it just felt a little off, so personally I don't recommend that one either. But don't sleep on the original one. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie is a fantastic one. The soundtrack for the movie was also great. The soundtrack was quality. It had songs from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Van Halen and a bunch of typical 90s dance and rap artists. The soundtrack is very much a moment in time and is extremely enjoyable. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the TV show are two separate things. They don't seem to exist within the same world. Mighty Morphin the TV show is inspired by Zoo Rangers, and the movie is inspired by the American TV show. The differences seem to be that the Morphin Grid doesn't seem to exist in the movie. The Ranger powers seem like they're coming directly from the command center or Zordon himself. How the Rangers obtained the ninja powers in the TV show is also different to how they get them in the movie. Also, Zordon doesn't seem to be a hologram in the movie. It seems like he's actually in that tube. Those are just some of the key differences. But who cares, right? For me, the movie is its own separate thing on a separate timeline. When the arena tour and movie dropped, the only words that made sense to describe the hysteria we all felt was a child's version of Beatlemania. It was nuts. The magic and excitement was palpable. It was a feeling of elation and excitement that I think you can only experience once. This show was the ultimate pantomime. It was live action theatre at its finest. Being at the live show surrounded by kids who were as excited as I was, it made it all the more special. The arena tour was technically my first gig. Seeing my heroes in the flesh meant everything to me. It was a dream come true. I think the reason why I glamorized the show more than anyone else was because, for me, Angel Grove seemed like this technicolor dreamland where everyone was always nice and polite to each other. Everyone went to high school, hung out in the juice bar and did all sorts of sports and self-defense type activities. No one did drugs or drank alcohol. No one used swear words. Sure, there was a few bad eggs, but the bad eggs were Bulk and Skull and they weren't really that bad. They were just pranksters. They didn't truly mean any harm. Everyone sort of gelled together in harmony. But in an instant, that same city would be totally overwhelmed by destruction because in every episode, the city of Angel Grove was being absolutely carpet bombed with random monster attacks, giant enemies and explosions. But the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers always seemed to get there on time to put things right. Fighting as a team and when needed, morphing into their ranger suits and calling upon their Megazords, combining into their signature bipedal robots that they collectively operated. At the end of each episode, they always managed to come through and save the day. As a kid, it was a world I desperately wanted to be a part of, because it stood in stark contrast to the harsh realities of the real world, of being bullied at school, being absolutely humiliated by teachers for not being smart enough, and being caught between my parents fighting with each other all the time. I needed the escape, but one day a friend of mine gave me that hope that someday in the future, maybe I could be a part of that world. Back when I was about 6 or 7, one of the kids on my road told me that he had evidence that the Power Rangers actually existed. And not only did he have evidence, but he actually knew them in real life and helped them out from time to time. I, of course, didn't believe him. Well, at first I didn't believe him. So one day he invites me over to his road, telling me that he has something to show me. When I got there, he took me out into the fields behind his house, which at the time looked like a wasteland from Mad Max. It was full of big rocks, trees, bushes, nettles, and giant holes filled with debris. This was your typical 90s playground. These big craters were big enough for kids our height to get lost in. So when we got there, we climbed down into one of these big holes, and just when I was about to ask what was going on, he pulls out this mad looking rock out of nowhere that looked like a cross between a geode and a crystal. It was spiky and had a reddish colour to it, and it had a little bit of dirt on it. I asked him, "What is that?" He told me that it was a power crystal and the Power Rangers had given it to him to keep it safe. The rock didn't look like any of the other regular stones that were laying about on the ground. It really did look out of this world. In fact, it literally looked like this photo. Remember, I lived in a world where Santa Claus and the North Pole was a reality for everyone my age. Was it really that much of a stretch to believe that the Power Rangers could exist as well? Here I was gazing at this crazy looking rock that didn't look like anything I'd seen before. And besides, why would my friend lie to me? What would you have honestly thought at 6 years old? I took him at his word and I believed him. Wow, so the Power Rangers really do exist. I was elated. I romanticised the notions of one day being able to meet them and maybe one day even becoming a ranger myself. After that, it certainly felt like anything was possible. This went on for weeks of me wondering what the Rangers were up to and when I might get to meet them. Every chance I got, I'd go up to Roberts and ask what they were up to and what Tommy was like. This went on for weeks, maybe even months, until one day things changed. Robert and his friends had gone from playing with me to gradually making fun of me and bullying me. Just like everyone else at school, I don't know what it was about me at that age, but everyone, and I mean everyone, bullied me. One day, I had it out with him. I told Robert that if he kept picking on me, I'd tell the Rangers what his friends were doing to me and what he was doing to me. It was in that moment that he shattered the illusion and broke my heart. The Power Rangers don't exist. I made the whole thing up. You're an idiot. Him and his friends all started laughing and I went home crying. What a cruel joke to play on a kid. For weeks after that I was crushed. But you know what, looking at this through my older self, for them couple of weeks, my heroes really did exist. And that made me feel happy. And in a way it made me feel safe. For those precious few weeks, Robert had unintentionally made my dreams a reality. He made me believe in a world where good was winning out over evil. Even though Robert had lied, my love for the Rangers didn't die, and I continued to watch the show. That was until I got in trouble for fighting bullies in the playground, and on my road whilst in a Red Ranger costume. By default, the Power Rangers was to blame, and one of my parents ended up banning me from watching the show ever again. And once again, I was crushed. All my parents seen when they looked at this show was the fighting and the destruction. This parent took the show at face value. I think if my parent had have sat down and actually watched an episode of the show objectively and made an effort to take an interest in it and talk to me, maybe this parent would have seen that the Power Rangers was about good triumphing over evil, that it was about instilling in its would-be viewer the core values of right and wrong. They would have seen that it taught a generation of kids to always be respectful and kind to each other, to be a team player, to stand up for yourself, and to bullies, to help others in need. It made the weak strive to become strong, and it promoted the martial arts, which also teaches these core values. But unfortunately, this parent's word was final, and I was crushed. This happened right at the end of the Mighty Morphin era, and although the show's storyline continued throughout its different variations, that's pretty much where the hype ended for me and a lot of other kids for that matter. I was aware that Zeo existed, and the odd time I was able to catch an episode or two, without my parents knowing about it of course, but I just couldn't get into it because I just couldn't accept it. Despite the command center looking new and improved, I just didn't dig it. I didn't dig the new Ranger suits. I didn't believe that they were stronger than before like the new theme tune boasted. The Mighty Morphin suits and everything that went along with them were iconic. It broke my heart that the power coins had been destroyed forever. The Mighty Morphin suits were now displayed in the background of the new command center, cemented into the past, seemingly never to be worn again. It was too much for me to take. Even the villains of Mighty Morphin had taken a backseat. They'd become a parody. The craze was truly over. The franchise had moved on and the Mighty Morphin era had truly come to an end. Still to this day, the Power Rangers hold a special place in my heart. And they always will. And if I'm fortunate to have kids one day, I hope to brainwash them into becoming Power Ranger fans too. And I think that's where I'm going to end things. This has been the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, My Childhood Heroes by Richie Kearns Productions. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this documentary. Videos like this take me such a long time to make, so if you want to support the channel and my work, please give the video a like, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much again, and bye for now.